Hey Summoners, Worlds has been insane this year, and we're here to break down one of the biggest upsets so far, G2 versus SKT. Make sure you stay tuned as we'll break down how G2 managed to pull off this insane victory and knock the former champions out of Worlds. For our question of the day, it's easy and simple. Who's gonna take it all? I'm rooting for G2 here, but make sure to leave your answers down below. But before we get started, make sure you go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one on our website every single day. As of now, we're currently uploading a challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champion, so make sure to click that link below. Also, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro, which provides instant, on-demand, 24/7 coaching from the best of the best. Trust me guys, you do not want to miss out on this, so sign up today. Alright, with all that being said, let's jump right into it. Game 1. Here's the overall impressions of Game 1's draft. It favors SKT with a winning bot in mid lane and skill match up top. G2 has better scaling because they have Ryze split push, but SKT can teamfight better and have more lane priority to work with early on. Game 1 starts off relatively even, with both teams exchanging blows. The first thing to note this game is SKT taking Rift Herald. As a result of the comp they drafted, they've managed to control the top side of the map and are able to take the Rift Herald for themselves. From here, they're able to heavily dictate the tempo of the game since they can choose a lane and demolish that turret. When that Rift Herald finally comes down, Wunder makes an excellent rotation to save their mid lane turret. This move was really smart because it cut their losses and prevented the game from snowballing out of control. Their excellent macro play also comes to fruition when they punish SKT for over-prioritizing Dragon. To do so, G2 rotates Perks into the top lane and gives him some extra bodies to hover him. This is really intelligent play because Infernal is going to be an obvious choice for SKT's next objective. In the current state of the game, there's no way that G2 wants to walk into SKT to try to 5v5 to contest. Afterwards, they rotate mid to stop the mid push following SKT taking Infernal Dragon. Later into the game, there's a Dragon Dance, but Perks is prioritizing pushing bottom lane. While SKT collapses on Perks, Wunder also pushes in mid. After pushing in mid, he rotates top while SKT comes to catch the wave he pushed in. Although G2 does end up losing this Dragon, we can see G2's macro play really shining here, as they're able to always get something back and run SKT around the map. By this point in the game, it's also worth noting that G2 is afraid to fight because Teddy has picked up 2 kills on Kai'Sa and is a likely candidate to carry teamfights. 25 minutes into the game, SKT strong-arm G2 and force Baron because they see Caps splitting bottom. Caps is one of G2's win conditions with his split push, and while you would usually expect someone to stop and teleport to contest, he doesn't do this. Instead, he trades SKT's bottom inhibitor for Baron. This is smart because they likely can't win this fight and are opting to trade back whatever they can instead. The super minions that will spawn also make it harder for SKT to make a follow-up power play with their newly acquired Baron. While pushing with Baron, SKT is still in a pickle with Caps still split pushing. He forces SKT to send 2 to stop him, stopping SKT's push. A couple of minutes later, Caps split pushes bottom again, and SKT commits their whole team to stop him. Baron is close to spawning, so Caps was trying to pressure the lane furthest away from it, but SKT wants to take him off the map before Baron's up. They rotate to Baron after killing Caps, but Mickey X manages to find a pick on Faker that saves the game. By catching Faker, they're now in the driver's seat because Caps will spawn first. All they have to do is stall. They brute force their way down the bottom jungle since Infernal Dragon has also spawned, and force SKT to concede. Following this, SKT initiates Baron and the final team fight of the game breaks out. The big highlight of this fight is definitely on Perks though. As Xayah, you'll naturally want to kite back in fights and bait your opponents in. Her feathers stack up and grow more numerous as fights draw longer. The small corridors of the jungle, like in this fight, are also an optimal spot for him. You can see in this fight that he dodges Effort's Leona ult while also dodging out on Teddy's initial burst using his own ultimate. Chaos ensues with the rest of the team fight, and you can see the rest of G2 really pulling their own weight, using several stopwatches to continue to stall the fight out for Perks. Once again, in the middle of the fight, Perks repositions with a great flash and cleans up in a small choke afterwards. MVPs of this game, Mickey X and Perks. Game 2. The impressions of the Game 2 draft are similar to Game 1. G2 still has a scaling with Ezreal and Ryze, as well as the Jarvan Galio combo, but SKT's team comp is straightforward and better during the early game. SKT manages to storm through this game and take a decisive victory over G2, but this doesn't deter them at all. Game 3. In Game 3, SKT adapts to G2's preference on Ryze and picks it for themselves. By the end of the draft, SKT have a hard winning matchup top, Ryze in an okay matchup mid, and another even matchup bot. For a blue side draft, this is definitely a win. Scaling is in favor of SKT because Ryze will be able to beat Orianna in the side lane later into the game. A big highlight of this game is the top lane. Renekton absolutely dominates Camille during the lane phase, and while Camille does outscale the Crocodile, it's very rare that she'll ever get to that point. This really shows when Khan solo dives Wunder under turret and picks up first blood 3 minutes into the game. Wunder, who wasted flash on that dive, falls victim to an Elise gank shortly after. It's already looking grim since he's in a bad matchup, and Renekton already has 2 kills to his name. In spite of this, Jankos takes a risk and ganks Khan in an attempt to stabilize the lane. It works! This is huge because this matchup would have been doomed without it, and Wunder can remain relevant in the game now. Following this gank, Wunder pushes in his lane and resets. Out of base, he makes a good play by going mid off of his reset and supports a gank on Faker. A little later, SKT tries to make a play mid but ends up failing it. A little later than that, G2 tries to make a play on Faker but gets punished. On the bright side, they force Renekton to teleport. Since Renekton used teleport earlier, G2 has the teleport advantage and start the Infernal Dragon, trading for Rift Herald. SKT heralds top with SKT's bot lane in the top lane now. This forces Wunder out of the top lane because he can't hold his own in that lane. Instead, he just waits for his team. The way G2 plays this is really smart. They have a 3-man setup bottom with Xayah, Elise, and Nautilus, set up deep vision and then recall, allowing Xayah to push by herself. The reason this is insane is that even though Xayah is pushing by herself, she has the presence of Nautilus and Elise nearby since they were recalling in the fog. From SKT's perspective, G2 is probably just trading bottom turret to match their play. In reality, they've left Perks on his own and are rotating to stop SKT's push. A little later, G2 makes a great play as a team. We see Camille rotate from the top lane to mid, while Orianna roams bot to pressure turret dive on the tier 2 bottom turret. This is a good play by Wunder since his tier 1 turret already dropped and he has time to catch mid farm and still make it back in time to catch the next top wave. Like in Game 1, G2 doesn't take fights they can't win. While SKT takes Dragon, G2 have already forfeited it well in advance and instead rotate onto Renekton to pick up a kill. 21 minutes in, we see one of the biggest blunders this series. SKT starts Baron, but doesn't finish it. As a result, effort gets caught out and G2 is able to take the mid lane turret afterwards. G2 has taken mid priority, and something else to note is the state of the top lane matchup. Wunder is up CS and also an entire level. In other words, SKT's biggest strength in their draft has failed to yield results. G2 mess up, however. Wunder gets caught out in the side lane and Caps teleports in, trying to save them, leading to them both dying instead. In spite of this, G2 cut their losses here by again pushing in mid and then rotating to Dragon as consolation. SKT attempts to siege on G2, but we see their confidence and unwavering resolve as they find a favorable fight against SKT's siege. In spite of SKT's Baron, G2 aren't afraid to call them out and take team fights if they're contestable. A little later, Faker on the rise this time is split pushing top. In response, G2 sets up bot side vision and pushes in both mid and bot. Faker is forced to recall, while G2 is able to take the bottom tier 3 and Mountain Drake. SKT starts Baron while Wunder is split pushing bottom. This isn't anything special as both teams are getting what they want. G2 is forcing SKT to act since Camille is pressuring bottom, and SKT is trying to force Camille to teleport because they don't want her to apply pressure. A team fight ensues and we see Wunder jump in and catch out Teddy. On the other side of the fight, it's absolute chaos with casualties on both sides. By the end of it all though, G2 trade 2 for 4 and come out ahead on the team fight even if they do end up losing Baron. A couple minutes later, Faker is split pushing bottom with Baron and channels his recall since G2 is pushing mid as a team. During this push, G2 plays extremely aggressively and looks for a fight. Wunder activates his Q on the mid inhib and immediately jumps onto effort to nuke him with the true damage portion of it. Essentially, this immediately creates a 5v4 scenario and G2 end up cleaning house. In spite of his efforts, Teddy finds himself to be the last man standing for SKT, and it's do or die time. G2 sticks around because they want to end the game, and we can see once again Wunder making huge plays to zone Teddy off so that his team can end the game. The playmakers this game were Wunder and Jankos. Game 4. Game 4's draft is hype. G2 finally get their pick on Syndra. While she's a strong pick overall, as a team, this is G2's strongest pick and probably the hardest champion for any team internationally to counter. After all, G2 has 2 mid laners, one in the mid lane and one in the bot lane, so you already know both these guys can play this champion extremely well. Her flex potential is powerful and absolutely invaluable on blue side, so this has definitely been a pick that G2 has been fishing for the whole series. During their draft, G2 also picks Yasuo, another bot mid flex for our mid lane duo. The first play G2 makes is they split the map. This is the best play they could make early on in the game because of their draft. This is something we'll need to analyze a bit more in depth to explain why, top to bottom. They want to provide pressure for their carries, Syndra and Yasuo, since their matchups will rely heavily on jungle assistance, or at least the threat of them in the Fog of War. Ornn on the top side is self-sufficient and doesn't rely on gold to be able to hold his own weight. Splitting the map toward the bot side already puts G2 ahead since Ornn will naturally lose to Vladimir anyway. Mid lane is extremely volatile. While Qiyana can beat Syndra in a 1v1 because of her insane burst damage, Syndra still has the range advantage. With enough jungle pressure, she can look for poke or free trades and turn the matchup around. In the bottom lane, Yasuo and Gragas can definitely kill Varus. The issue is that they're both melee, meaning that they have to put themselves in risky situations to apply that kind of pressure. Needless to say, that's where the split map comes into play, allowing G2 to play to both of their carries' win conditions. G2's bot lane hits that level 2 power spike and is able to play extremely aggressively as a result of the split map scenario. Jankos pops in and picks up first blood. A little later, we see Perkz showing off, calling out an Elise hiding in the fog and blocking her stun. There's definitely a psychological aspect to what he does here. In layman's terms, it's a power move. 5 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, G2 start dragging, but SKT make a play to stop them. They end up committing Vladimir's teleport, while Wunder used his to get back into the top lane. Wunder does what he can to punish this and freezes the top lane to deny some farm and slow down Vladimir's scaling. A little later, SKT set up a 4-man dive on the bottom lane, but G2 responds by backing off and waiting until they're ready to counter it. A minute later, Perkz manages to get Varus' flash with the pressure of Yasuo's all-in. G2 tries to capitalize on this lack of flash by forcing a play bottom later on. Unfortunately for G2, SKT is ready to answer this play and end up trading Teddy for 3 members of G2. This still doesn't deter G2. They recognize that Dragon is off the map, so it's time to initiate a lane swap. They swap their side lanes and have Olaf take the Rift Herald. Caps also teleported mid right after the last play, allowing him to start shoving the lane in. In the meantime, Faker still needs to take his recall after picking up those kills bottom. As a result, G2 is able to summon the Rift Herald mid. Fast forward 7 minutes, Perkz punishes out bottom and groups up with Mickey X to clear vision with him. They set up a ton of vision bot side and look to siege the mid turret together. Since they've cleared vision here, they know they're safe to engage from that side and also retreat back there if needed. Once they start hitting the mid turret, a team fight breaks out. Individual outplays are present everywhere in the fight. Clid dodges Mickey X's initial engage, but Wunder's follow-up is amazing. He ults and manages to zone off Teddy and Clid in the jungle. Meanwhile, Caps has a perfect use of his stopwatch to save his own life, and Jankos has been on the side zoning Faker off and proceeds to punish him when he decides to commit. The most impressive play of this fight, though, is how Caps finishes it off with a sidestep to save his own life. Just a little bit later, G2 find Mata out of position and catch him out with a Gragas ultimate. From there, they start pressuring Baron and try to force SKT to walk in. As a result, they're able to engage with Ornn ultimate and take a favorable fight in SKT's jungle. While SKT take Mountain Drake, G2 pushes in mid and rotates into the top jungle to push for vision. This is good macro play by G2, and they initiate a fight soon after. SKT ends up winning this fight, and they pick up Baron shortly after that. G2 is definitely on the back foot by this point. Faker is split pushing top with Baron buff, while the rest of SKT are pushing mid together. G2 recognize that they don't want a team fight and opt to commit everyone and try to kill Faker so they can at least get something. Once Faker gets back on the map, SKT starts split pushing with Khan in the bottom lane. Slowly, they're able to crack open G2's base. The game is coming to an end, except it doesn't. G2 isn't afraid. They're confident in their own team fighting and take one on their own terms, barely coming out on top. They managed to stave off the Baron push and pick up Air Dragon afterwards. SKT managed to pick off Mickey X, but not without Perkz deleting Faker from the game and blowing up Khan's Vladimir right after. Teddy makes a last-ditch effort to nearly save the fight, but G2 comes out with yet another victory. 28:30 marks everyone's favorite part of the game, A-ramming. Simultaneously, the Vision Wars are starting, and both teams are scrambling to pick up Vision around Baron. G2 try to pull the trigger, but the fight is disengaged and the A-ram continues. Although their initial engage didn't result in any kills, G2 is able to take mid priority and take vision control of the top jungle. Faker gets ambitious, sees a potential pick onto Perkz, and flashes in to make a play. Perkz is able to react just in time with his own wind wall. While it's difficult to see, he manages to block Faker's first Q, which was a water element, meaning he's only hit by the stun from Qiyana's ultimate and not her root. While he likely would have survived even if he didn't use his wind wall, he would have been in kill range if anyone, namely Khan on Vladimir, wanted to flash in and try and finish him off. Blocking the route also means that he's able to reposition himself faster and flash out of danger in time. The rest of SKT try to follow up on Faker's play, and Khan blows his ultimate trying to get some damage off. Throughout all of this, SKT's positioning becomes rather disorganized, and that's when G2 manages to pick Faker off. The subsequent fight results in G2 killing off Clid on Elise and picking up the Baron. G2 regroup and start pushing in mid and bottom. They push in mid lane and rotate bottom to start sieging the turret together, eventually taking it. G2 continues to choke out SKT with their pushes in both the mid and bottom lane. Eventually, SKT is forced to pull the trigger and collapse on Perks in the mid lane, freeing G2 up to take the inhibitor bottom. Following this, SKT pushes down mid with their numbers advantage, and G2 goes for Mountain Drake. You'd think that SKT would just take their inhibitor and get out, but G2 isn't okay with that. They initiate a 4v5 fight, because they want it to end here. Perks is close to spawning, so they're here stalling for time for that last team fight they're fishing for. Amidst all this, there's something else brewing in Cap's mind. The first step for his master plan is to flash in and waste his E. I mean, bait Elise into using a repel. Totally planned, right? He probably should have used Q first, but the idea was definitely right, and the end result is the same. G2 continue to converge, but Khan sees the opportunity to pop off and initiates his own turn. Once again though, Caps uses his Zhonya's extremely well and manages to survive. On the other side of the fight, Perks has finally returned, and Mickey X sets up the ultimate with a knockback. From here, Perks jumps over the wall with a blast plant and dives straight into Teddy to clean him up. It's chaotic, and Caps uses this chaos to teleport into SKT's base with his super minions so he can look to end the game. Back at the team fight, G2 manages to outplay and come out on top, taking down the raid boss that is late game Vladimir. Theme of this series, G2 only takes fights that are winnable, or that they're confident about. Otherwise, they'll always use smart macro play and trade objectives instead. Caps. SKT played too safe at times. Believe it or not, what G2 has shown us this series is something shocking but also exciting for the future of League of Legends. Our perception of smart macro play might actually be the furthest thing from perfect. You can't always go for the safe option. Things like setting up vision or avoiding extremely risky gambles can be punished when you're predictable. G2 knew every move SKT would make, and there's a possibility that SKT knew their opponents as well. Their reliance on staying together and making safe, calculated plays with vision was actually their downfall this series. They needed to be able to better infer G2's movements without vision, and instead make their plays faster. The main reason G2 won this series is because they always had a tempo advantage and could set up counter plays even before SKT started their own initial plays. As the series progressed, however, it also came to show that G2 were better team fighters, as they managed to outplay SKT over and over again, even when behind. In the fourth and final game, we saw G2 out-team fight and win against all odds with their individual mechanics and plays. G2 is a team where all 5 members can carry games, and it really came to show this series. That concludes this video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you guys want more content to help you improve, check out ProGuides.com, where we've teamed up with pro players to create guides designed to take your game to the next level. Also, keep an eye on our YouTube channel, where we're constantly updating it with new content just like this. Good luck out there on the Rift, guys, and we'll see y'all next time.